A Native American male, Roy Parfait, is shown sitting at a table on top of which are his wooden sculptures. Parfait wears a mid-sleeve brown and black plaid button-up shirt and black dress pants. The interviewers are not shown or heard in the video.
Okay, my name is Roy Parfait, and I'm from Dulac. I was born and raised in Dulac. 1943. I went to our Indian school. We weren't allowed in the other schools. After we finished the 8th grade in Dulac, they built us our first high school in Houma called the Deckville High School. And our first Indian graduating class was in 1962, and there were 5 of us. There's only me and this other lady who's left from our graduation. And after I graduated, I worked on oyster boats mainly. And then 64, I went in the Army, spent 3 years in the Army, 2.5 years in Germany. I spent 3 years altogether. And then when I came out, my job was mainly offshore. And offshore, I was lucky. I got to travel to Puerto Rico quite a few times, the Bahamas, Alaska, but mainly the Gulf of Mexico. I did that for a few years, and I worked for the Terrebonne Council on Aging for a little while. Then I ran our Dulac Community Center from 79-80 till 1986. And at that time also, the Mennonite church that came down, did our genealogy for our tribe, the United Houma Nation. But we had a man who did volunteer work, and he started our co-op. There were a few of us who worked with our hands, and there were some who have, like Miss Marie, who learned how to do the palmetto weaving and the moss dolls from her family, and Mr. Cyril, who did our cypress baskets. Mr. Sawatsky was his name, from Canada. He started a little co-op for us. And he stayed there for 2 years. And after his 2 years, they made me volunteer co-op manager. And actually, I'm still doing it, except that most of the people from 79, 80, 81, they're gone. Like Mr. Cyril, he died quite a few years ago, but he was about 94. And Miss Marie was probably in her 90s. There were others from other bayous I used to go to. This was all volunteer. Like I say, I would travel to the different bayous, pick up the craft. I've been doing mostly my festival, and now it's kind of hard because there aren't any festivals or shows I can go to, really. And the shops are very limited to what they pick up. And because of the economy also, they're not picking up as much. Mm-hmm. I started about 79. I started on my own, and this is what I was doing, but it's all done by hand. I cut the pattern out with a bandsaw, and then from there I start with a knife. And I started with a pocket knife, a Barlow pocket knife, regular pocket knife. And later on, I got a carving knife made, and I did what these other carvers usually do. They buy these straight razors, and it's a good metal. That's why. And I had 2 or 3 of these made, and that's what I carve with now, whenever I carve. And so I carve it all by hand, and these are the different stages. I cut it out with a bandsaw, like so, and then I cut off the edges, and then I'll put in the details, the wings, the eyes, and then I'll seal it. I'll seal it twice with a regular wood sealer, but you can use shellac, you can use polyurethane, and just about anything to make it shine, but I usually go back to my wood sealer. My craft shows, I've been to France 3 times, 93, 94, and 96. And then I was at the Smithsonian, what date? I think in the 80s and probably 91, 92. And I've been doing a jazz fest. It would have been my 41st year, but there's no more festival. And the Natchitoches Festival, I believe the same time. I would go to the different people and pick up their craft and then sell it. And I would bring some of the craft people to festivals also, like Miss Marie and Ivy, Mr. Lawrence, who would build boats, and there was a Mr. Verrat I brought to the Jazz Festival one time, and he made a palmetto hut, one of our huts our people used to live in. But my grandpa and this from Dulac and this other man were the last two I heard from, were the last two to make dugouts, out of the cypress trees. And I've seen an uncle of mine make a steering wheel out of wood, with the pegs going out. Well, it was all wood, But and they said my grandpa would do some carvings, but I really started on my own. And we had people from Cherokee, North Carolina, who are well known, come down to our club. They were invited to the center, and they would give us classes. I still do my well, not so much lately, but I've been doing it for years. And I would get up, I wanted to grab my knife and carve, and I would carve like 12, 14, 18 hours a day. And that was every day. I could hardly wait. Only last year and a half, I think the shingles kind of change in me some kind of way, and I wasn't there with that go energy, but I can tell you, for years and years, I would carve till 2, 3 in the morning, and like one of the jobs I had, the people allowed me to carve, well, it was easy. I was watching over people, and when they're sleeping, I do my carving, and that was real nice of them, And then they let me go up north to the shops where I would sell. I would sell to 2 shops in Cherokee and one in Gatlinburg for the longest times, But now I still go to Cherokee every year, and I've been doing it since the early 80s. I still do it, and then coming back from North Carolina, I was really wanting to get back into it. You see all these carvings there, because the Qualico Op is a huge shop, and they mainly take the pieces from the Cherokee tribe there, and I'm really anxious to get back. Lately, it was once in a while, like the last year and a half, But also, what's really sad is about a year and a half ago, I was in Townsend. There was a carver shop, and the man closed down after 29 years. And that's where I used to get my butternut, basswood, buckeye, and I can't get it anymore. I've looked, but nobody has it, like before. Well, I wouldn't want to carve just any wood. Like, I'll give you an example. This is cherry, and this is willow. And the willow thing is another story. At lumberyard, you can only find maybe 1 inch or 3/4 plain. And the reason I got some willow, about 3 boards, like 2, 3 inches thick by 6, 8 inches wide, about 6 long. I went to this lumberyard in Houma, and this man happened to have some because one school had called for some, he ordered, and they never picked it up. So he sold them to me. But I've been to lumberyards, and they don't have it except the 1 inch. Some have 1 inch. They say because all the funeral homes are buying the willow. It's a beautiful wood, it's cheap wood, and it's great to carve. And I can't find the willow. And then this butternut, for years, I would go up to Townsend, just out of Gatlinburg. I would fill up my backseat with blocks and my trunk for years and years. And this is really slow. There's no way you can do it fast. But eventually, like I would go to the Jazz Fest with 50, 75 pieces. You know, that was what I would have done throughout the year and maybe before, because I usually try to work with 2 pieces. I'm running out of the larger pieces, especially, you know. So it would be hard for me to find pieces like this and like this, you know, for my bigger pieces. My rabbit is also a butternut. This is cypress, and the little beaver here is cypress. These darker ones are walnut. My black panther, which is my favorite one, it's walnut also, and my buffalo is walnut. And the dolphin is basswood, the shorebird butternut. The only thing I have out of both, because it's really extremely hard, is that abstract statue of St. Francis. And I'm thinking this is Tupelo gum. Before the carvers would use basswood, then now it's mostly Tupelo gum, all these carvers use, because it'll take details real good. And there's hardly any grain, which is what you want. Because if you have heavy grain, it's hard to cut. And they say follow the grain. Well, this hardly has any grain, so you can go whichever way, you know. I do mostly one piece. You can see this is one piece, and this is one piece. My owl is one piece. Now this is what they call it a grain cypress, but they dig up these old logs out the Bayou Canal, and it's dark. It's all dark, and this is one of the dark pieces. My gator is willow, I believe, also. And my little rabbit is basswood. The lighter snick is butternut. These are cypress. And not too long ago, I started doing these bookmark. This is cedar, because it's red, and mahogany. They give you a substitute now for mahogany. You used to have good mahogany. And this, I'm thinking this is, I was going to say buckeye. I'm not sure. I haven't had buckeye for a while. I used to make these out of buckeye, which is real good. I don't do too many painted pieces. I saw this crow in a shop in New Mexico, so I carved one, you know. And then the base, probably a piece of cypress, and I painted. Like I say, do mostly one piece and seal with natural wood. A lot of time. You need that patience. It's a lot of time. But you get to pick up a little speed. You know, it's very relaxing. Hardly anything like it, you know. And you're into it, you forget what's going on around in this world, you know. And the thing to do is to just keep on. And what I still do is sometimes I love flea markets. I would pick up a model or something, you know, that would hit me. And I get home, but I would change it some, you know, to my own way, you know. And that's what a lot of these are. Because like that panther, this man from North Carolina came over, my teacher, Bill Crow, and I have the highest respect for Mr. Crow. And he had a panther. And so I was going to do this one, you know, and I started doing that one. And now the legs were a little higher. The body was a little higher, but I did it my way. And then he went and did one my way. But I'm not going to compare myself to Bill Crow because, you know, he was good, you know. He could carve, you know. He was well known. But yeah, it's to keep on doing it. Because I remember my first little bear. I don't have any here. And a lot of people say, "Is that a pig?" Say, "No, it's a bear." But my bear's different now. It looks like you can make it out as a bear. We taught in the schools, but we did it for 3 years. We were running to 3 different schools a week, and it was interesting. And it seemed like the kids really enjoyed it. If you can, you find a softer wood, but see, like the panther, when I'm ready to carve a panther, I would take 2 pieces, 2 cutouts, and it'll take me 8 days to carve my 2 panthers. Walnut is hard, it's really hard. But like the willow, butternut, really soft. And if you get the right kind of cypress, and I mean a select cypress, which hardly has any grain, which is different than construction cypress. The cherry is kind of hard, but I love the finish, Most of the people use Tupelo gum. Now, Tupelo is great, especially if you're going to paint, because you don't have to do all that sanding. You carve it out, and it's easier. It's easier than most of these woods, The only reason I don't use it that much is because when I seal it, it's kind of yellowish, sort of, So I like to do the brown raccoon, red fox, and different ducks can be different colors, and fish can be different colors. But that Tupelo is really good, especially if somebody wants to start. And make sure your knife cuts good. You can't have a dull knife. And the other thing is you just have to carve with safety, because it's so easy to get carried away. You're carving and you think you're going good, and then all of a sudden that knife can slip, that wood, you can hit a soft spot in the wood sometime. I think all my buddies use these rotary tools, which is great. As a matter of fact, I've had 2. And the first one is years ago. I don't know where it went. I bought another one a few years ago. It's still in the box. These rotary tools, they work good because you can take a lot of wood off, in just a little while. I just love to carve. I just love to carve off the wood, A lot of these people really couldn't travel. Like Miss Marie, she didn't know a word of English, I'm still learning. But she didn't know a word of English. And her brother, Mr. Lawrence, who could build you a pirogue, a boat, a Lafayette skiff, 20, 30, 40 feet long, a shrimp boat, 50, 60, 70 feet long. He did not know how to read or write. Mr. Cyril, he wouldn't go out of his house. He was a smart man. I don't know how much education he had, but not too much because he worked hard all his life. My brother does some carvings, but he'll do a piece only once in a while. One of Miss Marie's, I think his granddaughter, she'll might do a moss doll or a basket once in a while. And then May Lover, who did the moss thing, Miss Marie's niece, she won't go to festival like Mr. Cyril and my brother, they can't get them out of Dulac, I really enjoy going to the people's home, I was always welcome in different bayous, Delorge and Ile Charles and Houma. At the festival, I would represent them. Not so much me, but mainly them, because I used to carry like a dozen of small moss dolls and baskets. And I would go at the Jazz Fest, I would have like a dozen or so baskets, hats, fans, moss doll. And then I would sell to 2 shops in the quarters. And about every 2 weeks I was there. Actually, when I started, I wanted to do abstract. And for our club and the carvers who came down to help us, well, they were doing little animals. Then when I go to a show, what do they want? The smaller pieces, you know. Probably could never do it now, but I wanted to do abstract pieces. I still love them. Actually, it's bigger pieces I would love to do. And the other thing I've been looking at was doing things with metal, abstract pieces with metals. The other thing I never got into, and I really want to get into, is soapstone. You know, it's like a stone, but you can carve it with a knife. I would love to get into the soapstone. But I still have my big block of clay, and I have all kind of beads and bones, and I wanted to do everything. But when I got to my carving, that's where I stuck. And, you know, I just love to carve, really, yeah. It's gonna take a lot to bring it out. You know, I have a young cousin who really enjoys it, you know, and he really does great. He can carve wood, he can work with pine needles, he can work with cypress, but there aren't many people doing it at all. Usually, like the palmetto basket and the Moss doll, the craft that is usually carried in families. I don't know just how far this would go, you know, like to keep up the carving and the palmetto weaving, you know. It'd be nice if somehow they could start where the kids would be interested, you know. But like I say, it's mostly into the families that it goes on, you know. I just enjoy doing it, and but you know, sometimes, especially when it's a new piece, and then I'm finished with it, and I look at it, I say, you know, I said, did I really do that? You know, I mean, like my fish, I love my fish, my panther, you know. I feel good about doing it, you know, but I really think, I tell everybody, I think anybody can do it if they want, you know. And I really believe that, because if you have the patience, if you want to grab that duck and start and finish it, you know, I don't see anything wrong with saying that anybody can do it. I know there's, you know, people say, no, you can't, you know. I can do this. And what I'm saying is, I've seen other people carve, which I don't think I could do, you know, all the carving. So that kind of contradicts itself, you know, but I really feel like just about anybody could do it, you know, really. But yeah, I enjoy it. Like my panther and my turtle are the two hardest things to do. And that turtle, it can really get complicated because you got to work in the neck and in the legs. But when I'm finished, I really enjoy it. You know, I really enjoy the piece, and glad I can do something like that. You know.